Hey, Joey Starr here for Starr Quality Kitchen. Today I'm going to share with you some hacks for one of my all-time favorite activities. No, it's not sleep, although sleep is pretty nice. No, not that. Dudes, I'm talking about eating. Gosh, these are just some simple actions that you can take to enhance what is already a great experience, in my opinion. Let's talk about salt for a minute here. Salt is a very versatile spice. You've probably used salt your whole life to enhance your everyday eating. If something tastes kind of bland, you get a couple of sprinkles of salt in there, and suddenly that bland food is not so bland, or it tastes a lot better. And sometimes even food that maybe you don't even like, it's kind of ugh. You throw a little salt on there and it becomes a little bit more tolerable. That's how you've always used it, how most people use it. And because of this, there's a pretty good chance that you never thought to use salt to enhance things that already taste great. For example, you can actually use salt to enhance your experience eating ice cream. Yeah, that's right, ice cream, buddy. Now, I'm already anticipating some naysayers saying, you're gonna add salt to ice cream? That's gross. First of all, you only add a little bit. But also, for those of you who think, that must be disgusting, we kind of already utilize salt in our ice cream just about everywhere. Pretty much any kind of ice cream that has peanut butter flavoring in it, like peanut butter ice cream or chocolate peanut butter, you already have a mix there of your salty savoriness with that sweet. Peanut butter chocolate is one of my favorite ice creams, and there you go. You got the peanut butter, which is both salty and sweet, and then of course you have the chocolate, which is sweet and actually a little bit bitter too. And also, over the last 5-10 years, there's been a growing popularity of salted caramel ice cream. So there you go, that's already in place. But what you may not know is that you can use this for regular flavors too. Vanilla, strawberry, pretty much any ice cream flavor can be enhanced greatly by just a touch of salt. Probably the only exception that I've come across is mint chip. Just in my experience, mint chip is just I felt like it was the only case where if I added a little bit of salt, it kind of took away from it a little bit, but that's just my taste. I mean, you go ahead and try it. You may find that you love the mint chip with the salt. I personally, I'll use it on everything else. For example, I have here a couple of scoops of one of my favorite chocolate ice creams. Smells so good. I have some ordinary kosher salt, and first, what I'm gonna do is, let's test this out. I'm gonna try some of the ice cream as is. Nice chocolatey flavor, bit velvety, not overly sweet, smooth consistency, very tasty. It's hard to just take one bite and get to the next step. You gotta take another or another. Now I'm gonna take just a pinch. You got me? A pinch of ice cream, and I'm gonna try to maybe evenly distribute it among this particular scoop that I'm gonna draw from. There's that a little bit more. Not sure how well that'll show up. I don't know if you can see the grains are on there. So now I'm just gonna take a little, about the same size spoon, a bit of the ice cream with the salt. No, I'm telling you right now, it brings you up a level. This is like Super Mario already being big, and then he finds the fire plant, and now you can shoot fireballs. Dink, dink. Yes, there we are, right here. Fireballs, baby. So good. Just trust me, try it. Take an ice cream that you already think is great, a little bit of salt, and you saw it's just a pinch, right? I mean, almost nothing, a negligible amount of salt, but so profound of an increase in flavor. It just brings out that contrast of the salt to the sweet, just brings that out. Delicious. In addition to the contrast making that sweet more pronounced, it also helps reset your taste buds. You know how when you go to eat something you really like, especially when you're hungry, and that first bite is just like, oh, so good? Well, with the salt added to this ice cream, it's like my taste buds are reset with each bite. Therefore, every bite is like that first bite. Other examples of that salty and sweet mix is chocolate-covered pretzels and pretty much peanut butter anything. It also works really well with fruit. A few years ago, I was scouring the interwebs and I came across this thread in a forum talking about the joys of adding a sprinkle of salt to watermelon. And if you're hearing this for the first time, then you're thinking exactly what I thought when I read it. I was like, what? Salt on watermelon? Are you out of your mind? And then the more I read, more people were chiming in, and apparently it's a tradition in some areas. So I figured, hey, why not give it a try? I don't need an excuse to eat watermelon, and I love watermelon. And when I did try it, next thing I know, I ate my whole watermelon that way. So I have some watermelon cut up here, and of course I have my salts. I already know this is good, so I'm just gonna sprinkle on the whole thing here. Just kind of It's kind of a big piece here, so I'm gonna actually use 2 pinches, but I'm gonna try to distribute it somewhat evenly, just enough that I can see with my naked eye that there's some salt on the watermelon, but not doused with it. Take a piece here. Oh, that's so good. If you're trying this for the first time, don't do it standing up because your knees will buckle. Oh, my gosh. The thing when you salt the watermelon is that the salt kind of brings the juices and the water to the forefront of the fruit, just kind of seeps it up. So therefore, every bite is juicy and sweet. I remember too as a kid, my mom used to talk about, and on occasion she would actually have in front of me, she used to cut up cantaloupe and add ketchup to it. Not a lot, not like a kid with French fries dousing it, no. But she would take some ketchup, put it on the side, cut open the cantaloupe, make it into pieces similar to this, and just kind of dab it in the ketchup. And she thought it was the best thing in the world. Bearing in mind, my mom barely likes ketchup. She'll take a little bit on a cheeseburger, and that's about it. I mean, she doesn't even want that much. But when it came to the cantaloupe, she says, if I'm having cantaloupe, I gotta have the ketchup. That's what she would say. I shit you not. Very similarly, again, ketchup is another example. You got that salt and your sugar kind of coming together, providing that nice contrast, and that's what she's tasting in the cantaloupe. So this is the same idea. I was too grossed out as a kid to even consider trying it, but I have since, after discovering the watermelon trick, the next time I had cantaloupe and even honeydew melon, I tried them both ways, with the salt, with the ketchup. They're all really good. Personally, I prefer just the salt. Well, for the watermelon for sure, and for the honeydew melon, but I have to admit, the ketchup is pretty damn good on the cantaloupe. So, sorry Mom for doubting you. Pretty much any salt will do in these examples, whether it's Morton or Himalayan pink salt. I was using kosher salt. Those all work great, but if you really want to give yourself a treat, especially for the ice cream, look up Maldon, M-A-L-D-O-N. If you can't find it in your local stores, which none of the local stores around here have it, you can find it online. In fact, I will try to find it on Amazon and drop a link down below in the description box for you to try for yourself. You try that with the ice cream, oh my gosh, that's the creme de la creme of salt for salting your ice cream. Let's talk about hot sauce and the family of hot sauces. Hot sauce is definitely a condiment that is very underutilized. A lot of people don't realize that you can use hot sauce for a lot more than just tacos and fraternity pranks. I remember when I was a teenager that my mom was dating this guy, Miguel. Miguel was Central American. I don't remember which country. I wanted to say Guatemala, but I'm not sure. Miguel was one of those people that would put hot sauce on everything. The first time he stayed over our place, that next morning, we're having breakfast, Mom made eggs. He asked if she had any hot sauce. She said no. He says, okay, no problem, 1 second. Goes over to where his coat is, and he procured a bottle of Tabasco sauce and proceeded to add Tabasco to his eggs. This is not unheard of in Central American culture. Actually, a lot of cultures, now that I'm thinking about it. But for my mom, she was just like, she's not a hot sauce person. I didn't get into hot sauce until I was in my college years. So, to us, this was very strange. And it wasn't just that he added hot sauce to his eggs, which these days I think that's pretty good. But he buried those eggs in hot sauce. Like, basically the fumes coming off those eggs, it cleared his sinuses, my mom's sinuses, and my sinuses just by him eating it at the same table. Anyway, the thing is, Miguel used to put hot sauce on everything. Sandwiches, soups, and again, I didn't understand it then, I understand it now, but there's a line between adding hot sauce to enhance a lot of different foods that you like and just being obsessed. Miguel was definitely obsessed. It wouldn't have surprised me if one morning I'd gotten up and he was eating a bowl of Cheerios and I added a few tablespoons of Tabasco. I'm comfortable talking about Miguel because he and my mom really didn't last that long. I'm hoping it's not because he was using the hot sauce outside of the kitchen. As I mentioned, hot sauce is really good, not just on burritos and tacos and carne asada and all that stuff. It's also good in things outside of that kind of cuisine. For example, a pro move that I learned was to add hot sauce, into my New England clam chowder. So actually, I didn't mix it yet. I'm sure you can see it here. I'm going to try it a little bit without any hot sauce. There we go, right there. All right, just so I have a basis. Good, creamy. Clams are tender, melt in your mouth. Potatoes are tender. Now I'm going to mix in my hot sauce. Now, as you already know, my name is Joey, not Miguel. Therefore, I'm not going to go crazy adding hot sauce in here, but just enough so that the chowder has a little bit of a pinkish hue. I like a good hue. Put that in there. Next level. Definitely. And the great thing is, you don't have to add so much hot sauce that the clam chowder goes from being a regular meal to a spicy meal. You put in just enough that you can taste it in there. Like, even though my chowder is kind of pink, there's a slightest hint of spice, but this is not burning anybody at all. Even if you've never had hot sauce in your life, you're not gonna have a problem with this, the amount that I put in. If you want it hot and spicy, you can just add more, and I guarantee you, that's going to be the best clam chowder you've ever had. So, hot sauce clam chowder. Have I ever steered you wrong? Also, notable mention will go to adding sriracha sauce to pho. Those of you who live out in the West Coast, I'm jealous because I used to live out that way. You guys have the best pho in the United States, no doubt about it. California, Seattle, find yourself a pho place, you almost can't go wrong. All those pho places are great, better than we have on this coast, and you get yourself a nice bowl of hot pho and just a bit of sriracha, not a ton, you know, similar to what I added to my clam chowder, maybe a little bit more. Mix that in there. Terrific. Now we'll talk about some homemade dips. I was never huge into the dips that you would buy in a jar, unless I was at a party and somebody had it to go with some tortilla chips or something, or they had their own homemade version of French onion dip to go with potato chips or whatever. Outside of that, I really wasn't much into dip until I was in college, and one of my buddies introduced me to the idea of just taking some simple mayonnaise and mixing it with some ketchup just to make a kind of an orangish dip that was good for nuggets, french fries. You can put it in a cutlet sandwich, all sorts of applications. And I thought I was pretty elite at that point. And a few years later, when I was living with my then girlfriend, I went to go make this mix to have with something, and we didn't quite have enough ketchup. So she recommended, based on her own experiences, that I would substitute the ketchup with hot sauce. And I was just blown away. So now I had these two quote-unquote magical dips that I was using for anything that I thought was dippable. And since then, I've experimented with other stuff. And even now, I have my own rotation. I have a couple of different kinds of hot sauces. I use sriracha. I'll use Chinese crispy chilies that you can get in a jar from Amazon. All sorts of stuff like that. And I just kind of rotate through it, and I'll have nuggets, I'll have chicken tenders, pork rinds, chips, burritos, fish sticks, you name it. If it's something you can conceivably eat with dip, I make it with this stuff. So let me show you how easy it is just to make a couple of things like that. Take a little container, got my mayonnaise, no sponsorship, got my ketchup, also no sponsorship, and I'm just gonna take a spoon. The thing about this recipe is that it's 90% your taste, 10% following instructions. Basically, I got a couple of teaspoons of mayo here. I'm gonna give one little squirt of my ketchup, stir it up. I usually base mine on the color once it's stirred up pretty good. This is actually maybe a little more red than I like, so I'm just gonna drop a little more mayo in there, maybe about this much. Kind of give that the mix, the old mix. Give that a little taste. That works. You might lean a little more towards the ketchup, might lean a little towards the mayonnaise. You may try it a little differently each time. Whatever it is, that's really all that is to it. So I'm gonna make one like that, and then I'm gonna get another little container. I'm actually gonna make two more dips. So I have that. All three of these dips will be based in mayonnaise, of course. That's like the main thing. It's pretty much mayonnaise, and then you just kind of dilute it into something else. This one was the way my buddy showed me when I was still in college. And I'm gonna add some hot sauce here. And it doesn't have to be a lot. Similar color. This is gonna be a little more orange-like than red-like, but I like it kind of like this. But of course, you would mix it according to your taste. Get that little taste here. Needs a little more hot sauce, just a tad, about that much. This one, I'm gonna add some of Mike's Crispy Garlic Chili. I'll put a link in the description box below on where to get some of this. It's not something that you're likely to find in the store unless it's that one place in Queens. I don't even know if they still have that there. The aroma from this just smells so good already. And about this much in there. And this one should also get actually more of an orange-ish color than my hot sauce will have. Plus you'll have your little visible chilies in there. Makes that good. That smells amazing. And that's just gonna come out like that. So In order of discovery, college years, ex-girlfriend, sometime after I just decided to start making YouTube content. I discovered this stuff. Get that little taste. Oh, that is superb. Have some very generic store name brand breaded chicken nuggets for our taste tests here. Mayonnaise, ketchup mix. Kind of dip in there. I mean, this one's a classic. I've been eating this since college. So, I mean, I already know how good it is. And since I'm the only one eating out of this, I'm allowed to double dip, damn you. So take that, Timmy. There's like a creaminess that comes from the mayo. A tangy comes from the ketchup. They both have a certain amount of salt, of course, but neither one's overpowering. And they just blend nice together. Whether you realize it or not, there's a lot of condiments used in fast food restaurants, used in sandwich shops, where the basic recipe is this, and then they may add some other stuff to it like relish or any combination of spices to make whatever sauce that you're tasting. Mayonnaise is the basis for so many things people don't realize. Even things like tartar sauce, it's based with mayo. Next is the ex-girlfriend hot sauce mix. I'm not officially calling it, I'm just being a wise guy. But this is actually one of my favorites right here anyway, so take that. What's interesting about when you mix the mayonnaise with hot sauce instead of the ketchup, because the hot sauce is a little more pure, it's less ingredients, the mayo tends to be a bit creamier in texture and in flavor. Yeah, absolutely. I try this with all sorts of different hot sauces, and the hot sauce you choose naturally determines what your experience is like. I mean, pretty much any hot sauce tastes at least decent with the mayo, but some hot sauces work better with this than others. I've had it with Taco Bell hot sauce, and it's good, but this, I'm actually using Frank's Red Hot in this, no endorsement. I do like Frank's hot sauce better than Taco Bell's hot sauce, of course, so I guess it stands to reason that I would find this combination better. But I've used it with other stuff. Tapatio is really good. And the thing with the Tapatio is a little more pure than the Frank's as far as being a traditional hot sauce. It leans a lot more towards the Tabasco side. But as far as a flavor complement goes, the Frank's is a little better. But if you're looking for more heat, then the Tapatio, you're gonna pour that sucker in there or just add more of the Frank's. Lastly, my mix with my mayonnaise with Mike's crispy garlic chilies. And I gotta tell you, the crispy garlic chilies on their own as a dip is pretty darn good. But mixing it here, I don't know, it's just something magical about it. It's not the prettiest thing to look at, but the flavor is so on point. What I like about when I mix it with the Mike's is that besides that the heat is a little more organic in nature, it's a little bit more aromatic. You can smell and taste like the herbs that are in there. I'll drop a link in the description box below for my review of Mike's oil so you can see what my opinion is on that. So that, added with the mayo, it's a combination that really lends itself well to dipping protein meats into here. I never tried this with chips. I can see this being really good with potato chips, particularly like Ruffles, something really rigid like that. Probably not so much with Doritos or tortilla chips, but with nuggets, with pork rinds, and with burritos, it's freaking excellent. Yeah. And it doesn't end there. I mean, those are just my favorite mixes, but I tried all sorts of stuff. If it's a possible combination, I tried it out. Some of them have been really good. Some of them kind of sucked. It's decent with barbecue sauces. A lot of the barbecue sauces tend to be so sweet that when you mix it with the mayo, it just completely overtakes it. So it's not really that pleasant. It's still too sweet. I tried it with soy sauce. It's too salty. Even if you get a low sodium soy sauce, it's too salty. And the soy sauce doesn't really mix well with the mayonnaise. They don't really blend together well in that situation, at least not the way that we made these. I tried it with a commercial grade yum yum sauce. Again, too sweet. It did blend well, but it was just kind of too sweet. You'd almost want to go like 1 part yum yum, 3 parts mayo, or maybe 1 part yum yum, 5 parts mayo. You'd have to add like this much mayo to this much yum yum sauce, and then it's like by the time you dilute the sweetness, you're losing the flavor of the yum yum, so it's not really worth it. And there's some other combinations I don't even want to talk about because it's embarrassing. But don't let that stop you. Experiment, experiment, experiment. Variety is the spice of life, and when it comes to that dip. You can do almost anything and rarely go wrong. Which leads us to our final one, soy sauce based dips. This is something that I've only started to get into the last few years as I started to become semi-obsessed with Asian culture and foods. I'm sure you've seen me talk about it before. You've seen a couple of videos where I just kind of go to town on dumplings and bulgogi and all sorts of other stuff. So I've really gotten into that, and I tend to treat that kind of food differently as far as dipping sauces go. I feel like the Western-based sauces, like what I just showed you, doesn't really mesh well with the flavor profile that comes from Asian cuisine. I've kind of developed my own taste for dipping sauce based on things that I've seen in food blogs and on some YouTube channels, not to mention any names, like Chen. And of course, whenever I get something like, say, from BBGO, if they have their own recommended recipe for dipping sauce, I'll make it just to try it out, and 99% of the time, their dipping sauce is really good. I'd say maybe 4 out of 10 times it's better than my dipping sauce, but 99% of the time, it's great. So sometimes I'll just use theirs anyway, just because it's something different. So I'm going to show you how I make my dipping sauce. I'm going to show you the basic recipe because I almost don't make it the same way twice because I like to customize mine based on what I'm going to eat it with. And I'll explain that a little more in a minute. So what we're going to need is obviously a little bowl for it, sesame oil, vinegar. I prefer Chinese black vinegar when it comes to making dipping sauce. The issue that I have is that I can never find or buy Chinese black vinegar unless I go to a specialized store, which I have not been able to do in a while now. So I only have white vinegar, which still works great. It's just better with the Chinese black vinegar. And really important, brewed soy sauce. I will spare you from me explaining for a 4th or 5th time the differences between real brewed soy sauce and what you get in the packets. But the point is, brewed, good. Packets, eh. So I usually whip this together just by eye, by hand, whatever. But because I'm actually showing you how I make it, I'm actually going to use a measuring spoon this time. Basically, what I look to do is I go about, it really depends on how much dip I'm going to make, right? But whatever amount of soy sauce that I'm going to use, we're going to go with 2 tablespoons here. I'm going to make a big batch here. Basically, you want to go 1 part soy for 1 part vinegar. So 2 tablespoons of soy sauce means I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of vinegar. Sometimes I'll lean a little more towards the soy sauce. Like if it's certain types of dumplings, I'll get it that way. Or if I know it's going to go with some kind of rice. If it's something I know it's going to be really fatty, like a bulgogi or a bulgogi dumpling, then I might get a little bit more vinegar so that the acidity of the vinegar helps cut back the fat a little bit. And this way you can actually consume more. And really important, regardless of whatever I make there, sesame oil. Now the thing about the sesame oil is it's really easy to, when you're not experienced, just dump a bunch in there. Don't do it. A little goes a long way. I figure I have about 4 tablespoons of everything else, so I'm adding half a tablespoon now. All right, and just kind of mix that, and this has such an amazing smell between the real brute aroma that's coming from the soy sauce and just that almost sweet-like fragrance that comes from the sesame oil. Is a nice combo. So just do a little sip here. That's good. That's good. And this comes down to preference again. For some people, the vinegar is a little too intense, so if so, you'll add a little less vinegar. Or you can have no vinegar. You can just make it soy sauce and sesame oil. Everything I've shown you today is very customizable. Like most things I show you is very customizable, but these dips especially, completely based on your taste. If you want like a 1.5 cups of mayonnaise and 2 tablespoons of soy sauce and a teaspoon of sesame oil and 2 cups of ketchup, it's not something I want to eat, but if you like it, you go for it. You do you, buddy. So now the taste test. Let me whip up some dumplings real quick. So I have some chicken and vegetable dumplings from BBGO, one of my favorites, as you probably already know. And let's give it the old taste test, huh? Actually, I'm gonna have one by itself. I always like to give, just have a baseline. It's always tender skin, tasty scallions, generous amount of filling in there, chicken and vegetable, not over salty. Love it. Grab one of these here. Just gonna go for the straight dip. Oops. So good. So what the dipping sauce does for the dumplings, it gets a nice little contrast. Again, you get a bit of the sour from the vinegar, a bit of the salty from the soy, and a bit of heaven from the sesame oil. Makes a nice hearty. Now you bite into that dumpling and those juices come out and mix what you have in the sauce here. It's just magical. The sauce tastes better because of the dumpling, and the dumpling tastes better because of the sauce. A truly beautiful symbiotic relationship. So good. So these are just a few examples. As I said before, everything's customizable according to your taste and whatever you have on hand in the kitchen. Sometimes you have some stuff, sometimes you don't. Making the best of what you have to enhance your meals. That's what it's all about. Really, what you just saw here is just scratching the surface. Let me know in the comments section below what your favorite combinations are for making your own dips, where you like to use your hot sauce, and some of your favorite non-traditional uses for table salt. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and stalk. Laters. I cannot get enough of their dumplings in this sauce. My gosh. So good. Oh. Yeah. Laters.